Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Dork Side. I have a very special guest with me today who you may recognize. This is our friend, the Graceful Renegade, aka Grace. And Grace has a new job, which I think is pretty relevant to what we all love and care about, and has some stuff that is probably useful information for everybody to know and to be able to share and articulate. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So Grace, where are you working now?
I work for a wonderful nonprofit called T.R.E.A.D, and T.R.E.A.D focuses on motorized recreation and educating motorized recreationists on how to ride responsibly and help take care of the lands we love to explore and adventure on, hence protect the adventure. There are a couple principles I wanted to talk about today because there's a lot of chaos going on with land and land management these days. Woo, it's crazy. So, as recreationists and especially as motorcycle riders, when we are out exploring and adventuring, now more than ever, we have to be accountable for ourselves to keep access to our public lands open. Right, Ben?
What happens if we aren't responsible?
Unfortunately, the sad reality is if we are not responsible, we will lose access to this land slowly but surely. And one of the ways that land gets closed is through misuse. And I know a lot of the times people think that is just purely throwing trash around, but it's also creating man-made trails and not respecting the environment while you're out there riding.
So there's an easy way to remember kind of what you should be thinking about while you're out there doing this stuff, and it's an acronym, right?
Yes, it's actually our T.R.E.A.D principles, T.R.E.A.D, and they are to travel responsibly, respect the rights of others, educate yourself, avoid sensitive areas, and last but not least, do your part. So, let's dive into those. How does that sound, Ben?
Oh man, it sounds nothing like a lecture.
Just
It's gonna be fun. Learn and like it.
Yes.
Yeah, but seriously, as we are the definition of motorized recreators, right? And I just think sometimes we don't think twice about riding around a downed tree or stuff like that. And like, you know, here and there once in a while is different than establishing a new trail that then everybody starts following, and there's consequences for that stuff. And so just kind of the idea to give you a kind of a high level thing of just to keep in your mind while you're out there, especially because I know there's a lot of new riders on the channel. So,
yes.
You know, we don't want to lose access to these areas, and the way that we ensure that doesn't happen is by taking care of them. So we're just, the principles are just about how you take care of stuff.
Yes, and to give you some perspective too, Oregon has about 15 million acres of public land, and a lot of that is actually used for motorized recreationists and OHV areas, particularly around Central Oregon. So those are the areas most at risk, and I'm going to help you learn today how to prevent that from happening. So first up, with travel responsibly, this is principle number 1. What I mean by this is staying on the mapped route. While I know it's not always easy to do the bump up and over, you don't want to go around a down obstacle just because then other people will start to go around that obstacle, and that will create other trails that then completely widen and dissipate the trail over time. Does that make sense, Ben?
Yeah, and like I always used to come across stuff like that, and I'd be like, I should cut this out of the way, but I don't think I'm allowed to do that, right? But I think we'd rather people are cutting through the logs so that the trail can stay where it is than riding around them.
Moving on to the next one, respect the rights of others. This you're going to find a lot more in your designated OHV areas. So you'll find it when you're out dirt bike riding or dual sport riding with friends, and you have other side-by-sides or ATVs in the area. Now, what side of the trail are we staying on usually, Ben?
In the United States, we stay on the right.
Ride right. Yes. Also, thank you, BDR, for that one. Stay on the right and make sure that you're slowing down when you're passing. Also, a lot of riders know this, but if you don't, there's always a nice little rule of saying how many riders are behind you. That way, you give kind of an estimate of how many people, how much dust, and how much traffic is coming.
I made a video on that, which I'll link for you.
Okay, link right up here. Yeah, perfect. On top of that, if you're encountering non-motorized users, which you do a lot in Oregon if you're closer in Central Oregon to town, you want to make sure that you are not blowing by a group on horseback, okay? Let's just be nice and respect everybody and let everybody enjoy being outside, whether they're motorized or non-motorized.
Horses get scared more easily than motorcycles.
Yes, it's very true. Educate yourself. So this is the third principle.
We're doing it right now.
Huh?
We're doing it right now.
We are, I know.
Yeah.
Lecture.
You're already getting educated.
Are you feeling lectured?
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Another one. Okay. Back to educate yourself. So When I say educate yourself, other than trying to understand what the environment is like where you're going to be riding, you also want to have a map ahead of time, know where you're going to be going, and also know which areas might be closed. This also applies to wildfires and wildfire season, because there are certain areas during wildfire season that you can't go ride. And that's because you're at risk for fires starting, and they really just don't want to put those areas at risk. Have you had that happen to you before, Ben?
Have I started a wildfire?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of, but I have a spark arrestor on every bike I ride, so.
Very important thing to have. Always have your spark arrestor, because that can start fires, and we want to avoid that.
What's A?
Avoid sensitive areas. I was going to say avoid abandoned areas. I don't know why. Avoid sensitive areas is number 4. And the reason we want to avoid sensitive areas is because we love Mother Nature. And to keep Mother Nature intact, we need to make sure that we are giving her the opportunity to regrow, or also protect wildlife when it is in that area. You have migration patterns, you have nest eggs, you have a lot of different things, especially in Oregon, that you need to be watching out for. And those closures are to keep wildlife safe and also keep you safe.
Yeah, I'm aware of at least one area that gets closed off at certain times of the year because the elk are there mating, and you don't want to get in front of an angry, horny elk who's just trying to do his thing. So that's for your protection.
You don't. They get very angry, especially if they're not getting laid. Let me tell you, it's bad.
I know nothing about that.
Nothing about that. All right. The last T.R.E.A.D principle is do your part. And this comes into play with a very simple thing we can do when we're out riding, and that is taking a little bag for trash with you. I like to promote this, especially within my own channel, because I can't even tell you, I think it's almost every time I'm out riding off-road now, I find trash on the trail. And I usually will find either a water bottle or a soda bottle, sometimes a dip can. Yay, Zins and their popularity, awesome. But being able to pick that stuff up and get rid of it is very important, because nobody wants to have trash on their trails. And doing your part means helping to prevent that, and also just making it better for everybody.
Yeah, and not throwing crap in the woods in the first place, but leave it better than you found it.
Yes, leave no trace. Pack in, pack out.
We're very lucky, particularly in this part of the country, to have all these public lands and places to go. And the worst thing I can imagine is losing access to that stuff and not being able to ride through the forest and to the beautiful places I love. So we all have a responsibility to do our part, and I just want to say thanks to Grace for sharing, I think, some quick, easy to remember things that you can do that are like actually implementable, not some esoteric kind of, well, I like it and I want it to be good. These are legitimately concrete things that you can do to help ensure that that the forests stay open, and make sure that your friends are not being buttheads who are getting things closed off.
If you see your friends being buttheads, tell them they're being buttheads.
Yeah,
you want to protect the adventure. And honestly, a lot of these things are super common sense. So maybe just do a quick review of them, understand them before you go out, and go have fun.
Yeah, so thank you, Grace, for your time. Thank you for the information. And I just want to say to all of you, thank you for watching. And please do not forget to not be a butthead.
Bye.
Thank you.
Excellent!